It is the anniversary of the day Nigerians realized one of the most cherished of human desires, the desire for freedom. We, therefore, give thanks to and remember our founding fathers who labored so hard and sacrificed so much to build and
Thank you very much, Doris Olumoko. Of course, you're still joining political updates on the network service of Nigerian Television Authority. Just joining us there from the Jumat service to commemorate the 60-year independence anniversary of Nigeria. I still have so many political stories, and moving on now as Ondo State enters 2 critical weeks in the build-up to the governorship election in the state. INEC is engaging the media in placing emphasis on peaceful election. Let's hear from Professor Mahmoud Yakubu.
Media remains a critical stakeholder in the process of election, and therefore there is the need.
We will get back to that report, but let me welcome my guest, and that is we're talking about the former Minister of Niger Delta Affairs, and it's also former gubernatorial aspirant, talking about Nguru Saniguru. Thank you for joining us on the program today. Just before we were joined from the network, we were just having that discussion. I said, and I asked you, what are impressions from Edo State? We have Ondo State in a fortnight.
The impression can only be derived from the obvious eventuality, which we have seen as the result of the election in Edo State, which suggests that a form of sanity is taking place in the electoral process, and we hope also Ondo will follow suit, where the people's mandate, the people's desire, the people's aspiration is met as the electorate.
Another issue is this, because yes, there are off-cycle elections, and that saw a lot of resources expended. Only one state in terms of even the presence of security personnel, a little over 31,000, and then we still had other services like the NCDC, road safety, and the rest. Going forward, is this how it will look like? Or how can we make this a bit cheaper in terms of managing?
Unfortunately, it has tended to become a tradition in Nigeria to make the electoral processes extremely expensive. And that is why those who have access to material resources are seen and interpreted as having the right capacity, in spite of their abilities to execute effective governance in society. It is a wrong thing. Unfortunately, the Edo one has to be more expensive because the trending threats of violence were very obvious. So they needed to spend more, especially on the security perspective. But it is an unfortunate thing because Nigerians look onto money as the determinant of electoral outcomes.
All right, let's perhaps take that report again from Doris, talking about the preparations. If it's ready, we will go there. But let's quickly look at some other aspects of events happening around the country. But before we do that, let me take you briefly on one. What are the key areas, very quickly, in terms of features of the last election, that's last Saturday's election in Edo State, that we can take forward, bring on board, and Ondo State election to ensure a hitch-free exercise?
Well, from a distant appraiser, because I wasn't on ground in Edo State, but understandably, people were allowed to exercise their franchise reasonably. That is one thing we should take forward. Number 2 is the courage that the Edo people have, mustered to come out en masse in spite of the threats of violence, to select who they want. I'm a member of the APC. I would have wished the APC to win. But that we lost on fair grounds is a very wonderful development in our democracy, and I wish it continues. And again, above all things, we all have seen that the president has demonstrated that attitude of absolute fairness and desire to execute justice. And that is why even the chieftains of APC, the chairman Ketika committee, the president, and well-meaning members of society who mean well for Nigeria are congratulating the opponent who won. Again, let it not be that the day that APC wins, PDP will cry foul. Let us just know that what rains on the righteous, it also rains on the unrighteous.
All right, let's look at some other aspects in terms of, basic logistics and all that, and then before we go there, let's look at a little bit, that could be confusing to watchers and perhaps followers of the political space. The crisscrossing could be a bit confusing. Are we following personalities? Are we following party ideologies? We have party logos and no pictures on the ballot sheet. But it seems as if it's very easy for Nigerian politicians to, cross carpets quite easily, just to chase their desires, as against, entrenched political ideologies, which could easily be identifiable, especially to discerning, members of the public, as well as, people who want to vote.
The direct interpretation is that people are not tied to any ideology. So you find very few...
People or politicians?
Well, people. The reason is because even the politicians are patronized by the people who encourage them to do the wrong things. You find that in Nigerian political and governance space, if you are not a thief, you are not a successful person. The more you steal money, the more we clap hands for you. Yet you use that money to oppress us, and tomorrow we grumble and complain. So people are only after what they want to achieve for themselves, not because they are meaning enough to execute policies according to ideology. And so it's a dangerous situation. And that is why you find those who are consistent in the Nigerian political space are always the losers. They become the victims of society. And we brandish them with all types of identities. Unfortunately, that's where we are. So we are a society of misusing our privileges and then falling back to grumble.
Okay, but for instance, for those who have entered the political space, are eager to perhaps reel out their manifesto, gather votes. You have printed a dire picture for maybe a young politician who perhaps wants to, be engaged in the political space for nationalistic issues, for patriotic reasons.
Yeah, in my view, success means executing what you believe. Conscience rules the mind. And so anybody who believes in a particular thing should remain consistent, not to jump queue because others are doing it. I don't believe in the philosophy of if you can't beat them, join them. So if you cannot be kidnappers, you become a kidnapper. Is that the interpretation? It is a demonstration of your astute belief in a thing that shows the society what you stand for. And someday, a demand will come for that requirement, and you will stand out. And naturally, you will be celebrated. For instance, President Buhari became president not for any other reason, but because of the trust in the character he has built in his career as a military man and the former head of state. When he was head of state, what he demonstrated in executing discipline. Unfortunately, this time, it is different because the clocks of democracy will not allow a man express himself in governance.
Okay, let's moving on now. Let's see if we have the stories ready. Let's look at a few. Let's just give you a lineup of some of the things that we still have. We'll be talking about issues of security as well and development issues. It's been quite something like, a challenging year for the people of Edo State. They have an incoming government who is also the incumbent, but it's now an issue of, yes, we've given the vote, we need performance.
Correct. It is an expectation from everybody that once you are given a vote, you are expected to perform. But the media especially, in which you are implicated, most of the times misrepresent the realities because of reasons we do not know.
I will not own up to that, but I won't. But let's look at because let's take one report very quickly so that will perhaps give us a tonic to the next part of the discussion. The Speaker of the House of Representatives, Femi Gbajabiamila, has urged all arms of government to jointly address the issues of internal security and challenges disrupting the lives of citizens.
Combating security breaches in parts of the country has been a preoccupation of the Buhari-led government since assumption of office, with huge resources committed to tackle the situation. This retreat, which aims at promoting effective legislation and oversight of the security sector, will also build capacity of lawmakers for effective reforms. Speaker, House of Representatives Femi Gbajabiamila believes workshops such as this will reverse knowledge gaps that have affected policy making and oversight of the security sector.
A lot of the hopes we have for our country depend on our ability to guarantee the safety of our people and the security of property and investments.
Chairman House Committee on National Security and Intelligence, Representative Shaban Sharada says the dire need for pragmatic solutions to security makes the retreat timely and commends President Buhari for expending huge amounts on crime fighting.
Our committee is currently working on proliferation of small arms and light weapons and terrorism prevention prohibition bills to enhance security of life and property. The task of building our fatherland is our collective responsibility.
Presentations as the program centered on using legislative reforms to strengthen Nigeria's security architecture.
Our goal is to engage security agencies and parliamentarians constantly to find sustainable solutions to the issues of the security apparatus in Nigeria.
There is also an emphasis on ensuring full compliance with fundamental human rights, accountability and democratic control, and better applications and implementation of existing legal instruments.
The retreat will last for 2 days.
Okay, let's return to our earlier story. As Ondo State enters 2 critical weeks in the build-up to the governorship election in the state, INEC is engaging the media on placing emphasis on peaceful election. Let's hear from Professor Mahmoud Yakubu.
The media remains a critical stakeholder in the process of election, and therefore there is the need for continuous flow of information between the media and INEC. INEC Chairman Professor Mahmoud Yakubu wants journalists to report any form of electoral malpractice, and while on the part of the Commission, he promises that INEC will continue to remain neutral.
Will remain professional and that nothing but the votes cast by the Ondo people will determine who becomes the next governor of Ondo State.
As journalists, we have roles to play to ensure that we expose people who want to buy votes on the election day.
Other issues raised at the media parley include issues that have to do with the security of journalists while on election duty, and INEC promises to tackle that.
The input that we receive from you, from the field, is very important in order to enable us to respond to challenges as they arise during elections, and then the kind of lessons that we learn from one election to another.
And for the members of the fourth estate of the realm that is talking about journalists, they are promising that the Ondo State governorship election will be covered objectively with the ethics of the profession upheld.
All right, so the journalists have answered your question. It's going to be covered objectively, and I will give you all the news. And of course, as it is coming, trust the Nigerian Television Authority for that. But talking about the Odo elections, we can't but still look at it a bit critically. Now, the tension is building. They too are at the center stage. You have been in this position before as a governorship aspirant. What happens in camp at this time?
When you say in camp,
I mean, in the
system.
Yeah, you can give us an insight to
intrigues. Basically, that's how you capture it all, because they can make what does not exist to look real, and they can make what exists not to even be imagined, and that's why the whole space is murky, really. If you're a decent character, you feel quite uncomfortable in the system, especially in the Nigerian political space. Nonetheless, the philosopher says the wise who fail to take part in politics are governed by fools. So if we must redeem our society, those who are sure that they have something to deliver must come in and pay the cost of being able to serve the people. And that's why some of us are there.
All right, so let's look at, haven't so been succinctly put, INEC introduced some form of technology in terms of monitoring, almost real time, and that perhaps helped a little in terms of also looking at the election. They had a portal which is part of the innovation that was introduced this time, and they tried to a reasonable extent to see if they could contain physical distancing or, try to enforce physical distancing, it was not quite, possible in all the centers, especially where you had huge numbers of people. But moving forward, how would you want this to go in terms of, logistics and organizing it, especially as we know we have elections to conduct, at the same time we have a virus to contain?
Oh yes, what INEC has initiated is very much welcome, and I would think that we, the populace, should give them the required cooperation, because without that, they will never succeed. Now, having taken that first initiative in this election of Edo State, the observations under evaluation will now enable them address the issues or areas where they had problems. And because we are not direct participants, it may be difficult for somebody like me to make a comment on what I expect of them, because I do not really have details of what they executed, what they experienced, and what their challenges have been.
All right, moving on very quickly, the federal government is being commended for initiatives and programs which have directly led to job creation. Let's take this report by Onengie Fineface.
After what they consider a critical assessment of the implementation of the APC electoral manifesto in the last general elections, members of the APC Non-National Working Committee, National Executive Council Integrity Group scored the National Directorate of Employment high. Now, this is informed by what the group describes as effective implementation of programs to actualize the vision of the president to lift 100 million Nigerians out of poverty in 10 years.
Which we are praying other agencies to follow this and do what you are doing to protect the interest and image of the party. And we appreciate you for all the good projects you are initiating to support this government and to support Nigerian people, more especially your initiative of 774.
We believe whatever we give to you, definitely it will get to the grassroots. And we believe if we are able to take care of the periphery, the grassroots, it's very easy for us to control the center as far as the issue of poverty and lack of employment is concerned.
In addition to appreciating the group for the favorable assessment, the DG, National Directorate of Employment, sees the pat on his shoulder as encouragement for him to do more in promoting job creation through skills development in Nigeria.
All right, before we go, the week has started with the Jumat service. Nigeria is 60 this week. On Thursday, next week, it will be 60 years of the nation's independence. Your message to Nigerians at this time before we close shop?
Yes, every Nigerian will know that the hand of God is upon this country. Some years ago, it was predicted that before 2015, Nigeria would break. It didn't break. Just a few months back, the whole world said Africa was going to be terrible in the pandemic week, and it was going to bring about massive deaths in the country, especially Nigeria, but here we are. I don't think it's because of our technology or medical expertise, because God is with us. And where there is hope, there is, of course, liberty of God. And so we just continue to build our hope on divine circumstances, while we work hard also to overcome human-made challenges. So Nigerians should be hopeful and also know that we have a country to behold, now and in future.
Thank you very much. We've had our guest, Usani Nguru Usani, former Minister of Niger Delta Affairs and the former governorship aspirant, joining us today on Political Update. Thank you for being a part of it. My name is Fisa Ogunfi. Thanking you for being a part of the program today. Wishing you the best of the weekend and saying happy independence in advance. We have one more program before then, of course, to enjoy it together. Bye-bye now.